Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You are joining us again here on the starting grid at the Slovakia Ring. It is time for the second GT sprint of the GT Cup Series in the 2025 battle. Penultimate round of the championship. In a couple of weeks' time, we'll be racing in the season finale in Brno. But that is later. Now is now. And we have got the cars on the starting grid ready for their second sprint of the weekend. So far, it has been a clean sweep of the local drivers in ARC Bratislava colors. And we have got the yellow cars on the front row yet again. Of course, pole position on the inside line with Miro Konopka in his LMP3 Ligier already present in there. And we've got also the grid walk. Maybe we can turn our attention towards the front for the parade before the start itself. Let's see about that, what is here as the program for the viewers. We will, of course, make our way through the starting grid in just a minute. But maybe we can take a look very quickly at what's unraveling here at the front of the field. Because the main grandstand, as the whole weekend, packed with spectators, great views, and also the sun is out, the weather is pleasant, and I believe that everybody here in Slovakia is enjoying the event very much. Wow, well, I do believe that we will not see anything like that from the racing car drivers, because that, of course, would mean pretty crazy stuff going on in the race. I'm going to turn my attention to the outside of the front row. Filip Sládečka, we've already spoken to the other two ARC Bratislava drivers that are here this weekend, be it Miro Konopka or Zdeno Mikuláško, but yesterday a little further down on the grid, and we've got actually all of the three right now in a chat right before the race. Quick tactic check, quick preparations, little strategy meeting to decide what's going to happen maybe on the opening lap. And let's maybe hear from the man himself, Filip Sládečka. Hi, Miro. Your car is over there. You've got time, right? Yeah, good mood. Everybody's relaxed, and it's Filip Sládečka on the outside of the front row, so clear view ahead. Well, now there's a bike going crazy. We hope that there's nothing crazy going to be going on at the start of the race, but what are your hopes and expectations?
Yeah, I hope so also. I'm really looking forward to the clean race. I mean, I'm doing it like in a free time, you know, so I'm not racing the whole season, so any points makes any sense for me. I just want to have a fun during the race, so clean race, hope.
And how much do you enjoy the atmosphere here in Slovakia? Packed grandstand again.
I mean, in Slovakia is for me also special because I'm Slovakian, you know, and there is a lot of people here always, all the races. So I mean, compared to maybe other places, there are a lot of fans here. We have just one circuit, so a lot of people come to see just once in a year. So yeah, this is really nice atmosphere here.
Enjoy it, have a good one. That's Filip Sládečka on the outside of the front row, and we're gonna keep walking through the grid. Good afternoon, gentlemen. It is Aries Racing's and Schenki's Motorsport prepared BMW M3. Also discussing tactics right before the race, or maybe the proper soundtrack. Hi, Risha Gonda.
Hi.
The coach for Rudo Beño. So what do you have on the program in your headphones for this race? Some Taylor Swift?
No, the traditional Slovak music.
Traditional Slovak.
Duchonic now, because of the movie, really in.
How satisfied are you with the progress made this weekend?
Amazing. Starting with, as I said yesterday, engine change through the night. Guys made amazing work to make the car working with zero problems after such a big thing. We are perfect with the setup, we are perfect with the tires. Now it's just in the driver's hands. And as a coach, I try to work through the weekend with really small details with Rudo to help, to improve, to really work on the small things, to have a complete package. So hopefully a good start with no problems, and yeah, fingers crossed for a GT3 win.
Rishagonda, always good to you and have a good one. We're gonna let your man concentrate and keep strolling through the starting grid. Petr Fulin in his R8 Audi on the other side of the row number 2, and we will keep going. It's Piotr Vera in 6th, right behind me in his Good Speed Racing's Mercedes, but we have got another new name on the grid. Not in the sprint race yesterday, but he is here today, and he is the former champion of the series. Another local driver, Stoffe Rossina, in the other Dayglow yellow Lambo. Stoffe Rossina. Let me see. Oh, he's not yet in the car. Also with Jirka Navratil, a few friendly words before they jump in the car and before we'll go racing. Stoffe, former series champion, but now on row number 3. I know you need to get ready, but a few words before the race. How are you excited for this race?
No, I'm looking forward. I'm happy to be participating in our home Grand Prix. We see a lot of spectators, so it's going to be fun. I haven't raced here for a while, so we will see now.
Thank you. Enjoy it. Denis Vasek, P7. Let's see if he's here or still running from the restroom. No, today the preparation has been good. No last minute runs away from the track. Denis concentrated and ready, and starting from P7. So Denis, how are your hopes and expectations for the race?
Yeah, so I could stay in my car today, so definitely better to sit here and relax before the race than running to the toilet. But for the race, yeah, I have Stoffe in front of me with a GT3 car that is open. Will be very tough, but I try to follow him and to fight in the front.
And what do you enjoy about this track the most?
I love the high-speed corners. I mean, here at Slovakia Ring, you have everything a little bit, right? You have high-speed corners that are fun, you have mid-speeds, you have hills, you have everything. So I really love this track. It's like almost my second home track here. And I love the fans, a lot of people coming here, which is great. So it's always an amazing weekend.
Denis Vasek, thank you. Have a good one. On the other side of row number 4, it is Antal Žigo in the Trevor Racing prepared BMW M4 GT3. And then further down the field behind me, the MZR machine, KTM GTX, Jack Russell in P9. And alongside him on row number 5, it is Coach Mackenzie in the HP Racing prepared Lamborghini Huracan GTX. Then Max Grip in P11 in the other MZR Racing's KTM. Could we even actually have a little word here? It almost looked like you were a little disappointed that we're not going to talk to your driver. But Jack Russell. Can we have a quick word? Hi. Hi, Jack Russell, starting P9 in your KTM. How do you enjoy yourself here in your machine in Slovakia?
Yeah, it's great here. It's really funny, and we're a little bit behind the other GT3s, but we will see what we can do there.
Where is your car strong around here?
Around about 500 plus.
Okay. Then if we keep walking, we've still got a couple of minutes. It's a busy grid walk, I need to say. I mean, if we simply look around, quite a lot of spectators that of course have to clear the grid right now, then it will then leave only the team members by the sides of their machines. But it's a great afternoon, and you see not only the packed grandstand, but really even here for the grid walk, quite a lot of fans coming here, enjoying the atmosphere, and that's just really great to see in all the beautiful weather. It was more cloudy and a bit colder yesterday. Now it's hotter, but still nothing unpleasant, and I believe that it just makes for a great Sunday drive, makes for great Sunday race. So, you know, let's go and enjoy it. Cars ready on the starting grid, and as you can clearly see, it is again the yellow colors of the local ARC Bratislava team on the front row, with Miro Konopka on pole position. He did have enough time on the grid to jump out of his car and walk on the other side of the grid to discuss, let's say, last minute tips and last minute whatever they were discussing actually. With Filip Sladečka, and also to go together with Zdeno Mikuláško. We do not have Zdeno Mikuláško on the grid today. His car taken over, as you see here, the car number 7 by Stoffy Rosina, another of the local heroes. Petr Fulín in third on the grid in his predominantly silverish Audi R8, and alongside him the mostly red BMW M4 GT3 of the Aries Racing team, Rudolf Beňo, enjoying a very good endurance race yesterday, scoring a victory among all the GT cars. And ooh, that's a big one. That's a big one. I was just looking down on my screen, and that's a crash right live on your television and live from the onboard. Oh my goodness, this is really not something that we were expecting. Antal Žigo in the wall on the formation lap, and that is definitely going to suspend the race starting procedure. What happened? Well, cold tires and maybe a little too abrupt maneuvers on the first crest. The entire procession is now red flagged, so we are going to go back to the starting grid and stop everything again. I was just looking on the live timing screen when the hit came, and Antal Žigo is out of the race before it has even begun. This is always very unpleasant to see. It's very unfortunate. And look at the damage on the car. It's really, really big. The whole bonnet has flown off and the whole front end has basically come off. There's also damage to the barrier. We have had a couple of crashes similar to that yesterday on cold tires. It was usually on the opening lap of the race, not the formation lap. And Antal Gigo visibly frustrated. He's out of the car, and this is a very frustrating sight. Antal Gigo with his head in his hands, definitely being very unhappy about what just happened. You saw that yourself, and yeah, the whole front end is completely destroyed. Now you can see also underneath the bonnet of the M4 Beamer, but not exactly the sight that the man would expect. And Antal Gigo, who came here as the GT3 class leader, is now out of the race before it has even begun. So this is the first shock of the afternoon. Yeah, and the entire procession is now being red flagged. And that means that the entire starting procedure will get delayed. We, of course, have no idea by how much, but we are currently looking at the clearing away efforts. Of course, the marshals also together with the firefighters on the spot, as a lot of liquids have found their way directly onto the track. Yes, it is off the racing line, but still, that surface will need to get some treatment. There's coolant, maybe oil on the track, but either way, yeah, we're gonna have to wait a bit before we're able to restart all of the proceedings. I presume that the team members will now be allowed back on the starting grid because, of course, the cars will have to stop for currently unknown amount of time, and that means that they will very probably need some external cooling again, just like the drivers in the cockpits. And the team members should be allowed back on the track because it is the red flag, of course. Which means that the race start procedure is now suspended. There is still no one appearing on... Oh, now they are. Now they are. So the grid position will now, of course, remain vacant. Grid position number 7. Actually, it is... For the standing start, it is the position number 7, but actually, for the rolling start, the rows are reversed. That means that you've got the even-numbered positions on the outside of the grid, and that means this is actually P8, although the slot, of course, says P7, but this is the car of Antal Gigo. The flatbed truck is at the scene of the accident. Quite a lot of debris and quite a lot of liquids that need to get treated. We have got team members back on the starting grid, and they will give necessary attention to their machines and also, of course, to their racing drivers. Well, let me just go through the grid right now in the meantime, because we do have time now. It is Miro Konopka and Filip Sládečka sharing the front row for ARC Bratislava, just like yesterday. Of course, Filip Sládečka yesterday starting from 4th today. He is on the front row, and there we see the incident once again, just losing the car while trying to put some heat into the tires. But I just guess that swerve to the right was overly aggressive. The tires were still cold, and Antal Gigo unfortunately simply lost control of his car and crashed. Definitely not something that that you want to see and that you want to experience. On row number 2, we're going to have Petr Fulín and Rudolf Beňo. They had a close fight together yesterday and are about to enjoy one more today, because they were separated by less than 1/10 of a second in the qualifying earlier on today. Each sprint race has its own qualifying under the current weekend format. 158.584 for Fulin, 158.641 for Rudolf Benio. So, as I mentioned, less than 1/10 of a second. And this is, of course, going to delay all the afternoon's proceedings here. I mean, the crash that we are currently still seeing the effects of on our screens. And also the technical state of the barrier being currently assessed. The debris being cleared away, yes, but is the barrier okay for us to keep on racing? Because we had actually two similar shunts yesterday. It was unfortunately Tomáš Miniberger in his KTM that spun his car on the opening lap of the race, and if I remember well, that was the endurance race, and well, he crashed head-on just like Antal Žigo now, but that was on the opening lap right after the start. And similar incident also occurred to Antonín Herbeck with his Rock Robots prepared Ferrari 488. You may remember Tony Herbeck from the previous seasons with his Pagani Zonda R, but since then he's been racing with the much newer Ferrari 488. Unfortunately, he had a very similar incident on the opening lap of yesterday's sprint, and the car was heavily damaged. I was talking to the team members last night, and they just mentioned that the damage was too big for it to be fixed here on site, which means that, yeah, they simply packed everything up and stayed overnight and left the track earlier on today. So row number 3, it's going to be Stefan Rosina in the other ARC Bratislava Lamborghini Huracan, and then Piotr Vera in his Good Speed Racing's Mercedes AMG GT in P6. Denis Vasek will then be left alone on row number 4 in P7 in his Lambo. Alongside him, a vacant spot after Antal Žigo, who has just crashed out of the proceedings on the formation lap. Jack Russell, we heard from the man, P9 in his KTM GTX, prepared by the MZR Racing team. Alongside him, Coach Mackenzie in his GTX HP Racing's Lamborghini Huracan. Max Grip in P11. Alongside him, Gregor Žigo in the other Trevor Racing's prepared BMW. Ondřej Rokos in P13 in his Mercedes. Then Bob Bau in P14 from Petr Koukola in P15. Just check really quickly. Yes, Petr Koukola, of course, driving the Janík Motorsport prepared Aston Martin Vantage GT4. We are currently flying above the grid. No, sorry, it's actually with one of the other cameras. This is the head-on shot, and it seems as though we already have a 5-minute note, 5-minute warning, let's say. That means that it's not going to take that long in the end for us to go racing. I was going to say racing again, but we haven't even begun for the second GT sprint. I'll just finish the grid then. It is Grega Šimunovic in 16th, Andrej Makarovic in 17th, and Kalman Bodiš in P18 with his Silver Sting that was managed to be repaired yesterday. There was a technical issue for it in yesterday's endurance race towards the end. There was also a contact between Karin Racing's KTM and Mechanik Motorsport's Lambo yesterday in the endurance. We do not have any of the cars in the second GT sprint here today. Mechanik Motorsport was not even planning to join the sprint this weekend, but Karin Racing was going to. However, the car took quite a lot of battering and a substantial damage, at its rear end as Matthew Homola was sent spinning and hitting the barrier sort of half sideways, half backwards. And although the KTM is still there, present in the garage, it's not on the grid and not taking part in the second sprint. Still the barrier behind the first corner, receiving treatment. There's a crane, there's a fire brigade also helping still to treat the liquids on the racetrack surface. And we do not seem to be having to replace the barrier segment, maybe just hammering it back to shape with the help of the crane. And if the marshals give it a green light, then we should be good to go. And there it is. There it is. Then the rescue cars, one by one, leaving the scene of the accident, which means that we will be able to go racing in just a couple of minutes. Everybody's still ready on the grid. We have had new signals from the race control towards the racing cars, towards the racing drivers and their teams, who will now have to leave the grid very soon with the final minute signal. And then we will release the cars back onto the racetrack to the new formation lap, with the pace car heading the field, of course, as we are getting ready for a rolling start procedure here in Slovakia, as is, of course, customary for the GT racing. So 15 seconds before we will head off to the formation lap. And there we go once again. In front of packed grandstands. A lot of spectators finding their way to the Slovakian racetrack this weekend, which is always great to see. Also the car park that you may have seen in the background beyond the first corner, rather full. So great spectator attendance, which then makes for a very, very nice atmosphere here in Slovakia for the Slovakian Grand Prix. That's part of the GT Cup Series calendar. It is the second to last championship round. Then the GTs will then race again in 2 weeks' time in Brno. And that will be it for this year's season. Some other series still continuing to Hungary, to Balaton Park for the end of September for their final round. But for GTs, it is going to be season finale in a couple of weeks' time in Brno. A rather interesting view into the third corner. This is the hard braking spot. From this angle and with this kind of zoom, it actually looks like there really isn't much space in the braking zone, and it appears to be really short, but in reality it's actually a little bit longer. But definitely it is very, very intense, and it is one of the hardest braking spots on the circuit. Of course, bringing a great overtaking opportunity with it. The first coming, of course, in the corner number 1. And then as you try and sweep through the very fast right-hander of turn 2, where the battles usually simply continue, then you are presenting your car with a great braking force into turn 3. One of the hot spots on the circuit in terms of racing action, but also in terms of incidents. This is already the twisty and snaky bit in the middle. Lots of tight corners, lots of potential for cutting across your opponent, the switchbacks, and opportunistic, surprising dive bombs, for example, into this left-hander, and then you make your way through these S's back onto the back straight, actually. That brings you to the final corner of the track. And on that straight, since we are using a rolling start procedure, all the drivers now have to come back into formation behind the pace car that is then going to make its way to the pit entry, and we will go racing. I was again gonna say go racing again, not racing again. We haven't even begun yet, but it's gonna happen. And so there we go, actually expecting Miro Konopka in his LMP3 Ligier to take caution at the start, as is usual for him. He usually loses places, only then for him to win them back on track. And we are now waiting for the red lights to turn off, all the cars on the start straight, and there we are. The race has now begun with Filip Sladečka potentially even taking the lead. However, we have got a fast starter, and that is Denis Vašek in his GT2 Motorsports Lambo, taking the lead into the first corner. Great start from Denis Vašek from all the way down in P7 on the grid, and he is now your race leader from Filip Sladečka in second. It is then Rudolf Beňo in third. A little bit of potential drama with all the dust on the crest, but that was no new incident. That was simply everybody driving across the treated surface after the crash of Antal Žigo on the formation lap. Miro Konopka getting back to third, but oh, we've got one of the other Lambos. It is Stoffie Rosina already in trouble in the third corner, and I initially thought that he just outbraked himself, but it appears as though he needs to retire the car from the race. Does he? Because he left the track completely. It is the section where you might be able to simply switch back to the final corner. And this is now the change for the lead. Miro Konopka back in first. Denis Vašek not even defending because he knows that this isn't his race. He's going to focus on the other Lambo right behind his back, and that is Filip Sladečka. Filip Sladečka outbraking himself into the left-hander, even touching the grass and allowing Rudo Beňo into an opportunity which did not materialize in the end. Filip Sladečka staying third overall. Still Rudolf Beňo the fastest among all the GT3 cars here, with the second in the category right behind him in the hands of Petr Fulín, the silver Audi R8. In the meantime, Stoffie Rosina has already parked his Lambo away from the track, behind the barriers, so a rotten bit of luck for him, actually. He didn't really go very far in today's race. So we've only now completed first lap, but we are already -2 cars, if we do not count the ones that did not even make the starting grid in the first place. I mean, after crashes in yesterday's party program, we have already lost at least 2 cars across the weekend, and now a minus further 2 right at the beginning of the race. So let's settle in some pace, some tempo. This is RTR Projects AMG GT Mercedes in the hands of Ondřej Rokos. He has made a couple of places, and he's up to 10th overall in front of Gregor Žigo and Bob Bau. This is another interesting fight, actually, for 6th overall. It is a GTX and a GT3. MZR Racing's KTM ahead in the hands of Jack Russell. And behind him, Piotr Vera in Good Speed Racing's Mercedes. Coach McKenzie then in P8 from Max Grip and Ondřej Rokos. Across the crest we go. And we are now making our way around the final corner once again. So let's see the order across the line. Miro Konopka leading after 2 laps by nearly 2 seconds, it's more than 5 now. 1:57.2 is the new fastest lap of the race, and so far the only car lapping under 2 minutes, and actually well under 2 minutes. Denis Vašek in second overall, 2:0.6, and then Filip Sladečka in third, slightly faster in on the previous lap, and staying close to Denis Vašek. They had about 1.3 seconds between them across the line. Fully in fourth. Benio fourth, Fully in fifth. And then there's this fight. Jack Russell already coming under a lot of pressure from Piotr Vera. Piotr trying to stay patient. He had a go at a very late braking, but stayed on the outside simply to give himself space in case anything happened. And it was not really a full-on attack. He's just getting himself ready for it, reading the lines of his rival. Ooh, and a spin for Jack Russell. And Jack Russell then removes himself from P6. He will now try and turn his car around, but he's now facing the gravel. The engine should still be running, but he's now trying to find a good moment for that, because, yeah, this is not a very enviable situation. It is on the exit of the corner. Luckily, it is a slow one, so drivers usually have space to tighten the exit a little bit more and avoid the standing car. However, it's been there for some time already. Definitely losing a lot of position, a lot of time. He will try not to drive in the gravel trap. However, I also understand him not really wanting to reverse back. You can't really see much out of this KTM towards the back, because there's the engine cover. You do have rear view mirrors, but they are very small and don't really tell you very much about what's coming from the side. So that is not a very pleasant situation for Jack Russell, but he is now going again. Reversed just about enough to give himself space to, for the turning circle of the car, and is now going again, however, losing everything that he's gained in today's race, dropping from P6 all the way back. And this is Petr Koukola in the Janík Motorsport Aston Martin Vantage in trouble. There was some smoke, presumably after a spin. We did not see, of course, how the incident started, whether it was a pure driver's mistake, or somebody helped Petr into the spin. But this is the fight for the GT lead. Not exactly the same class, but for the sake of it, these are the two very, let's say, similarly performing Lambos this weekend. And Denis Vašek still staying ahead of the GTX Lambo. Oh, well, actually, they are the same class. It is that they're both entered in the GTX class, actually. Although the underpinnings of both cars are slightly different, you will also notice the rather different aero packet. Denis Vašek in the Cup version of the Lambo in the Super Trofeo edition. However, behind him, that's a full-on GT3 spec of the same model, basically. of the Italian mark, of the Italian brand. However, as they are not really restricted to their original classes, they are both actually running their cars in the GTX mode, which then makes them direct opponents and fighting for the class win. Filip Sladečka trying to put pressure on Denis Vašek. And these two are really staying close to one another. Filip Sladečka showing a faster lap times and a greater performance now. And Denis Vašek running wide on the exit of the final corner. This is not really what you want to do, entering the start and finish straight, because this is going to present Filip Sladečka with a great opportunity to pounce. Slipstreaming along the pit straight. He's not really probably as close as he needs to be, which means that the order will stay the same for now. Well, the front Lambo visibly more twitchy and a little harder to keep under control. Across the crest they go, and through the very fast and sweeping right-hander of the turn 2. Sladečka still staying close, but maybe not close enough for an attempt into third. And the order doesn't change now either, while we're watching the race leader, Miro Konopka, who is already ahead by more than quarter of a minute in his LMP3 Ligier. Sladečka again very close to Vašek on the infield section. There they are, hard to separate. There's contact even, and Denis Vašek ends up in the gravel trap. Oh my goodness. I believe that Filip Sladečka didn't anticipate Denis to go that slow on the apex. He was a little bit faster and did not really manage to react properly to that situation, and that probably make him hit Denis Vašek from behind. It was a little nudge, sort of tiniest of contacts, but that was still enough to send Denis Vašek spinning and sliding in the other direction, where was nothing else than a huge and deep gravel trap that has now swallowed Denis Vašek and is not really wanting to release him back on the racetrack. Let's see that again. Filip Sladečka hard on braking and mid-corner touch, the slightest of touches really. But that was enough for Vašek to turn the other way around and end up in the stones. What an unfortunate way to end the race that started so perfectly. Denis Vašek showing a fantastic, almost rocket ship style start. However, halfway through, it is all coming undone. We of course have yellow flags at the scene of the incident. As Denis Vašek will be helped out of the gravel trap. That of course means that his chances in today's race are completely over. Already receiving external help, which then even makes you ineligible to return back to the race, even if you wanted to. This is your race leader, Miro Konopka. Yep, he's still there. Sladečka up to second. However, there will be definitely some scrutiny over what happened on the infield section. It was just a slight misjudgment by Sladečka. He was really close behind Denis Vašek, but he was probably expecting the Czech driver to be slightly faster on the apex. And Denis Vašek right on the edge of the grip and adhesion of his tyres. He was waiting for that moment where you know and where you sense that you've got the corner and you can allow yourself to go back on the throttle. But before that moment happens, you just really have to be careful, and you just keep slowing down tiny little bit. But I believe that Philip was already expecting Dennis to speed up again, which didn't happen, and it all cross-sected in the point where they simply touched, and Denis Vašek was kicked off the track into the gravel trap and out of this race. This brings Rudo Beño on the overall podium. However, he's still leading his GT3 class, being fastest among the, let's say, regulatory limited class or restricted class in the full GT3 spec. Rudolf Beño still staying ahead of Petr Fulín. They are also enjoying quite a close fight between themselves, because across the line on the previous lap there were, well, less than half a second between them, which means that they are still also quite close to one another, 7 minutes before the end of the race. And that means that the fight for the GT3 lead is still very much undecided. Piotr Vera running in 5th overall and 3rd in the GT3 class, so currently his race shaping up for a podium finish. And this footage now revealed that Rudolf Beño has already extended his gap over Petr Fulín by some more margin. I don't think that there's half a second between them anymore. Ooh, a spin, and this ends up in the gravel as well. Car number 898, and that is a bad luck for Max Grip. Well, I've long been saying that this is probably the best racing driver's name I have ever heard of. However, even Max Grip runs out sometimes, and the car is sent spinning into the gravel, and this is what it's called, beached. The car already sitting on its bottom, and the rear wheels digging themselves a hole. So unfortunately, even Max Grip will run out eventually. Either way, that was a slight mistake. Simply going probably too soon on power, back on power. This is again the same sort of situation where you're just turning, waiting for the grip before you can go back on full throttle. And if you simply go for it a little too soon, you can quickly overdo it and end up in the gravel. Luckily, no contact, no crash, no damage to the car, but of course, well, Max Grip is now going to bring his mechanics a lot of stones for their aquariums at home. And that also ends their afternoon prematurely. So the KTM being towed away. Through the gravel trap. The marshals help removing some of the stones, but there will be a lot of them anyway, and they just go everywhere. You can be sure of that. That means that you need to strap off the car completely of all the bodywork that you can, and remove not only the stones but also the dust out of the entire system, out of the wheels, brakes, brake ducts, everything. And currently we have less than 2 minutes left in this race. Miro Konopka still circulating around his home track with a vast gap of almost half a minute over his teammate Filip Sladečka, who's leading the GTX field after the incident with Denis Vašek. Not really sure about whether he'll be able to keep that lead, because that might also bring a penalty. This is Filip Sladečka lapping one of the KTMs. That should be MZR Racing's Jack Russell, actually. Jack Russell, of course, losing a lot of time in the incident where he was trying to stay ahead of Piotr Vera. However, spun on the infield section, and it took him a lot of time to get going again, as he was trying to avoid the gravel trap ahead of himself. So not really a best of races for the MZR Racing team. There is still another car in the proceedings. That is actually not the KTM. It's the Porsche 911 Cup, the 991, driven by Bob Bau. Bob Bau in the GTC1 class, fighting with Bodiš Kalman, but winning that battle. So at least one of the MZR Racing prepared machines is still running strong, and that is Bob Bau in 8th overall, actually, with his Porsche. So a good race for him. We have got under half a minute left, but of course we will make it onto another lap. "13 seconds left as we cross the line. It is just 25 minutes, not 25 minutes plus 1 lap. It's not like the endurance where we did add another lap over the designated race distance, or let's say race time rather. So this is the final lap of the race then. Miro Konopka some 5 kilometers away from home to score a 3rd victory this weekend. And giving something back to the full grandstands of mostly local fans that have come to Slovakia Ring this weekend. Final lap, Filip Sladečka in the lead of the GTX class, then Rudolf Beňo in the lead of the GT3 class. Also a great weekend for the local driver, Rudolf Beňo. Rudolf Beňo was the 2nd GT3 on the road yesterday, behind Christian Kořeňovský in the Olymp Racing prepared Ferrari. However, that is not racing today, and Rudolf Beňo has been able to keep Petr Fulín under control. Petr Fulín running some 2 seconds behind him. But there is the race leader, and also about to become the race winner in the overall proceedings. Miro Konopka making his way back onto the start and finish straight. The checkered flag is up in the air, and Miro Konopka is victorious for the third time out of 3 attempts this weekend in Slovakia. His teammate Filip Sládečka bringing home the GTX fielded Lamborghini Huracan to his class victory. Now driving along the back straight into the final corner, still some time to go. Arriving around half a minute back across the line. Behind Konopka, Filip Sládečka is now also on the finish straight, and this is end of his race and a successful one. Victory for Filip Sládečka in the second sprint of the weekend. GT3 victory for Rudolf Beňo after the victory in yesterday's endurance race and second place in the first sprint. So Rudolf Beňo, a very successful weekend for the home driver. Petr Furin in P4 overall, second among the GT3 cars, and the GT3 podium will be completed by Piotr Vera in Good Speed Racing's prepared Mercedes AMG. Coach Mackenzie, 6th on the road, GTX P2, and then it is Ondřej Rokos in 7th in his Mercedes. Bob Bau victorious in the GTC1 class in his Porsche for the MZR Racing to hold their flag high after misfortune for his teammates. Jack Russell coming home 9th across the line overall, and Grega Šimunović in P10. Petr Koukala bringing his Aston over the line in 11th overall. Petr Koukala second in the GT4 class behind Grega Šimunović, who has taken a victory in his own class. And Ondřej Rokos on the podium in the GTX category. Further cars also finishing. We have got Kalman Bodiš second in the GTC1 field. That might also very well be it. So that's the second GT sprint behind us, and let's see all of the highlights that we've enjoyed this afternoon. So that's it for the second GT sprint of the weekend, and with that we're done with GTs for the weekend entirely. They're going to Brno for their finale in 2 weeks' time. You see the results now here in graphics, but this is also not the end of the weekend just yet. We still have 2 more races coming your way, and in a couple of minutes it should be the third race of the Central European Formula 4. After that, a little later on, also the second race of the Renault Twingo Cup. However, all the proceedings will of course get a slightly delayed because of the red flag at the beginning of this race, but we will be back very soon. For now, from the GT sprint, it is of course a very warm goodbye.